Hey there, bibliophiles and those raising bibliophiles. Without ratings and warning labels, finding which books are appropriate for your children to read is like navigating wild terrain without a map and a compass. I don't know about you, but I have been burned more than once handing my child a book that I thought was clean and appropriate for them to read. I'm a fellow mom, educator, reading specialist, and literary enthusiast trying to find great books for my children and yours to read. So if you're looking for a real review from a mom with a biblical worldview, then welcome and enjoy this week's book review. So this week's book review is The Shadow Throne by Jennifer A. Nielsen, and this is book 3 in the Ascendance series. Opening on the brink of war, Jaren must make difficult decisions, some of which he must base on deception and cunning, wit, or more will be lost than just his throne and his life. Book 3 opens with a prologue kind of 3 weeks before the war in which Jaren and Rodin have a very public argument full of insults, dramatic gestures, and a seeming rift in their friendship. As a bit of a spoiler, but something more astute readers would expect based on Jaren's character, is that all of this is a ruse in order to throw off Avina's leadership, thinking that Carthia is weaker than it really is. So war is looming on every front. Jaren needs to send troops to meet it. Meanwhile, Tobias and Princess Amarinda are on their way to Weimar with Fink in tow to seek help from her family's kingdom in order to really shore up the armies of Carthia, especially in the north. So through a turn of events less than ideal, Tobias is captured. Amarinda is on the run, but Fink manages to actually make it to Weimar before he is himself taken captive on his return journey. Meanwhile, Jaren tries to help Rodin become the leader that he knows that he's meant to be, and then helps him to kind of, from there, he kind of turns to really go and rescue Imogen. Once he learns that Mott himself, who he sent in an attempt to rescue her, has fallen into a trap set by Vargan, who is expecting that exact thing. Jaren manages to help Mott and Imogen escape, but Imogen's release is pretty much short-lived. She is struck by a deadly arrow in the chest. Jaren's taken captive and tortured to surrender to Vargan. Jaren refuses to break to Vargan. He is very much, though, breaking inside at the death of Imogen. Captive, Tobias arrives, and Jaren kind of realizes that Tobias is going to be tortured in order to make Jaren surrender. So through a series of events, Mott then reappears. They all manage to escape. There are so many twists and turns in this story that your reader is going to stay engaged. They're going to be on their toes, desiring to see what's going to happen next. I know that my own son just could not put the book down. I'm pretty sure he read it all within a matter of just a couple hours. And so if you have a reader who's been following this series so far and they've read book 1 and 2, they are going to be so eager for book 3 and they're just going to fly right through it. Additionally, in the story, he goes and has a visit to the pirates that really goes less than expected, but they do manage to kind of escape and keep their lives. War ultimately is fought on many fronts. Some victories seem sweet, but they're definitely short-lived. So if you have a reader who loves those battle scenes, they're really going to be hooked into this story with having those. Eventually, in an attempt to save Mott's life and really the rest of his men, Jaren offers surrender to Vargan. He is taken to Farthenwood, which will take readers kind of back to book 1 and with Connor. So Connor has managed to escape prison in the capital of Carthia, and he is actually working with Vargan leading up to the end of the novel. However, through a series of events, readers will be happy to learn that Connor has actually been helping Jaren, and he dies in service to the throne, allowing Jaren to ultimately be victorious in the end. So even when he at one point is hanging from the gallows, so there is that in the story, but all the key characters of this novel actually survive. I would encourage you, if you are wanting sort of some more details, go to my website at holdingsteadfastreaders.com. You are going to get a few more details, some quotes that I think are worth sharing. Definitely, you can see, I don't know that the author was intending some biblical tie-ins, but you can definitely see some of that. When Jaren is contemplating his surrender to Vargan, he's really thinking in his mind, about Mott trying to teach him that sacrificing yourself for others so that they may live is the ultimate act of love. And that is definitely a biblical concept, something that is taught in scripture, about, somebody, no greater love than this, than that one would lay down his life for another. And so, as a parent, if you're looking for some of those biblical tie ins, where we can see some of the characters reflecting things that are true in the Bible, this book definitely is going to lend itself to some of that, with the elements of sacrifice and honor and integrity in the story. I really enjoyed the third book in the series. I did also learn that there's a book 4 and 5, which I wasn't quite expecting with the way that book 3 ends. It kind of has a little bit of this epilogue that kind of wraps up some of the characters. So I'm a little interested, definitely, to read book 4 and 5, and I'm going to do that. I hope to get that before summer, but I may or may not. Jaren is cunning. He is deceptive character, but he's also extremely selfless, and he's very caring of the people that he leads. You will see him as a character. He's deeply hurt by every loss of life in his army. And so it does set up good character traits about leaders. Again, like I said, about themes. The main characters in the story, they do end up getting married, which also adds another element of importance about family and relationships. As a spoiler, Imogen does manage to survive, and her and Jaren do end up getting married in the story. So, parents, if you're looking for good YA fiction, this series is definitely something worth looking at. If you haven't seen my other book reviews for book 1 and 2 in this book, I do encourage you to go and check those out. My library has this marked as YA literature. A lot of that goes from 12 and up. I would probably go just a little bit older than 12. Probably sitting more in that like 14 range, just because some of the battle scenes might be a little bit dark depending on the sensitive nature of a younger reader. So just to kind of keep that in mind. Again, I hope to get book 4 and 5 in before summer. So if you're looking for a good series to kind of hand off to your child, especially when you're trying to find fantasy, sometimes that can be difficult. I hope to have that available. If not, hopefully shortly into summer. So I hope that's helpful to you as parents as you're trying to find great books for your children to read, and that you'll join me next week for another book review.